Hi, this is Heidi. Episode 27, Worry Isn't Necessary. Life isn't a spectator sport. The greatest rewards come to those who show up every day with a pocket full of courage, grit, and some sparkle. Well, hello. I'm glad you're here. How is your 2020 going? I'm recording this the week of President's Day. Here in Massachusetts, this week is our winter school break. So my kids are off school and we are using this time to recharge. No big trips. One son is taking driver's ed all week. Lots of appointments to get things done. Lots of connecting with one another, which can be good and bad. But we really are refilling our fuel tanks. Now, of course, I'd like to do this on a beach somewhere, but sleeping in our own beds and recharging at home really is nice. And my goal is that we also try out some restaurants close to home that aren't our usual places, always looking to do new things to show our brains that we are people who change and we can do new. So today I want to talk about worry. We live in a worry pressure cooker world. I see today and can relate to those who are kind of addicted to the emotion of worry. And worry shows up as a burden on all of my clients, regardless of their age, how many children they have, their economic status. So I want to do a whole episode on worry, and I'll probably do it again every single year in some form or fashion. And this is because when it comes down to it, worry robs us of peace or another emotion that we could have today. Because worry has us focused so far in the future on things that are totally hypothetical situations. We have much less time to enjoy today, to even be aware of other emotions, maybe even some negative, that would be more useful to process today. I love the quote attributed to Eckhart Tolle, "Worry pretends to be necessary." And doesn't that seem to be exactly what worry feels like? It really feels important. It feels like if we worry a lot, it means we either love the person that we're worrying about, or it means we think the situation or the person is really important and meaningful, or maybe it means we're a thoughtful person. But let's dive first into what worry really is, what our brain is tricking us into thinking about, and even just that alone will give you easy ways to get a hold of your worry tendencies. But I'll still give you some exercises and tools to move out of worry and back into the present and how to experience today. Mark Leary, a professor of psychology and neuroscience from Duke University, explains how our brains are so different from other animals in a way that helps us see exactly how worry slides so easily into our daily thoughts and mindset. He teaches about this really cool concept: immediate return environments and delayed return environments. Animals live in immediate return environments. See, they only think about where to get food, staying safe for the short term, staying warm, or where to lie down that night. All of their decisions have immediate results and outcomes on either being a good or a bad choice. Now, humans, on the other hand, live in delayed return environments. Most of the decisions we make today do not yield results or outcomes until the future. Now, if you go to work today, you don't get money tonight. You'll probably get a paycheck in the next few weeks. If my child writes a great essay for school today, he won't get a grade for a few weeks as well. And his grade for his classes won't impact where he's accepted to college for many more months or years. So think about some decisions you've made today. When will you truly see the results of those actions? Now, some could be today. I always feel better when I exercise and eat healthy. I can actually feel that today. But me finishing my taxes and sending info to my accountant won't benefit me for maybe 2 months or so. Here's the problem. Our lower brains still thrive on immediate results. In fact, they were designed to help us survive in that environment. But today's environment has very quickly, over the last several hundred years, and even faster over these last decades, become a delayed return environment. So our brains want to solve problems fast, like animals. For example, think of this. We're being chased down a dark alley. We feel stress and anxiety. We run for safety. Then we safely make it home. Our stress goes away because now we're safe. The danger is gone. But the things that we feel chasing us today aren't dangerous animals. They are this. Will I be impacted by layoffs of my company? Or can I pay the mortgage this month? Will my teen make illegal or immoral decisions when out with friends? Will my quarreling siblings resolve their differences? These are not problems that are usually resolved in the immediate short term. The actions of today for these issues will have delayed outcomes. So our brains create these fears that seem life-threatening. Our brain wants to solve problems. So enter the mental game and the chest-tightening emotion of worry. Our human brains of 2020, which amazingly are the same size as the prefrontal cortex of those found hundreds of thousands of years ago, work in overdrive to solve for problems, most of which won't be resolved one way or another until a future time period, which means we need to learn to manage our worry, which of course is a companion of anxiety. And we can manage and reduce both by seeing what our brain is doing, understanding that worry comes from our primitive brain, scanning for the negative and wanting to protect us. Our brain trying to solve a problem before it's even a problem, and without all the data and facts that are required to actually solve for something. Then the next step is managing worry, knowing that it's coming from our thoughts. Worry isn't being created by something outside of us. It isn't coming from the time on the clock. It comes from us thinking, I'm going to be late for the meeting or for the airport. That is what creates worry and anxiety. Our children's grades on the online portal don't create worry. It's our thoughts. Oh my, did they really not turn in that work that they did? And geez, does Burger King have management track? That is what creates worry. Another factor to understand as we try to get a hold of our worry is to understand we live in a world of uncertainty today. The date I went on tonight may not yield a lifetime soulmate. The 2 hours in the gym might or might not result in losing weight. The hours I spent helping a child study for a test might or might not help them pass a test or get a good grade in a class or help them get into college. Our instant reward brain struggles with the uncertainty of our delayed reward environment. The problem becomes that we first don't know what's going on in the future, so we spend a lot of our present energy working out solutions to possible future problems. But if the future problem does occur, we never go back and say, oh, I'm so incredibly glad I worried for 6 months if my daughter would get into that school or not. When the future event happens, or maybe not, it's only then that we have the actual data and emotion to deal with the situation. Now, this past year, I coached a woman who was preparing to get pregnant and then did get pregnant with twins. Her worries started even as the pregnancy was beginning, and they felt very well-founded. She had lost pregnancies before, and she knew the grief and sadness that could follow. And she felt like this was possibly her last chance at more biological children. So she was feeling that added pressure that she was putting on by her thoughts. Now, weekly, we coached through the thoughts, creating the worry. And we questioned every single one of them, including, what if you do lose the pregnancy? She was so open and vulnerable and aware of her thoughts. And it felt so justified and loving for her to worry about what if this happens. What if? Her brain had her so convinced that the more she worried, the more she could do to prevent anything bad happening. Not something that might happen that day, but something that may or may not happen in the future. See how worry is all about the future? And this was her worry pretending to be necessary. It didn't go away, but she tried to manage it. She saw on a daily basis how the worry it took her out of the present, which had other positive or negative emotions, and the worry really wanted her living in the future. Now, I know a lot of men and women can relate to this worry. We have very, very little control over the situation that we think worry is going to help in some way. Now, unfortunately, she did miscarry both babies, and she was devastated. She mourned and she processed her grief. And as we coached when she was ready, she saw how no amount of worry in the months she was pregnant could have prepared her or either saved something that was entirely out of her control or even help her deal with it when it did happen. The worry wasn't useful. And she recently told me that the worry at times was debilitating and it really blocked her from being present with her children, enjoying the other things that were going on, including enjoying the pregnancy while she was pregnant. Now, most of our worries will be situations where the worst is not going to happen. And I asked my client when the miscarriages happened if the emotion was even like what she worried about. And she said no, she wasn't even prepared for what she felt. See how the worry robbed her of the emotion she could have felt, and it didn't even prepare her for the worst case scenario. So, see, worry isn't a problem-solving emotion. Worry is an indulgent emotion because we spin and spin with no forward progress. Worry also usually keeps us in victimhood since we don't have power to make decisions. Worry has nothing to do with the present. When my oldest son drove off alone, the first day he had his driver's license, my brain wanted to offer up so much worry. You guys know. And it felt exactly like what a loving and concerned parent should do. Everything I was worried about was about something that may or may not happen in the future while he was driving in the future again. As he drove off, I was actually really peaceful, and I was really proud of him for passing his test. And I was pretty confident in his experience. He was driving somewhere where he had driven many, many times, and I saw my worry was all about the future. And I was so glad when he did text me where he got where he was going. But it was a perfect example of how the worry isn't about the present. It's all about the future. Even before he started driving on his own, we talked about well, what do you do if you're in an accident? And we discussed all those things with him, but not to make him paranoid. Those discussions came from the emotion of confidence. Now, I've noticed as an adult that when other well-meaning people express their worry to me about things that they worry about for me, I sometimes interpret it as they have less confidence in me or maybe even slight criticism for my abilities, or am I making the right choices? Now, see how I'm making up some stories and it causes me my own defensiveness. So I see areas I need to work on myself. But I'm now aware of how our verbal worrying, what we say, which is really us just being in other people's business, can look like we know more about what another person should be doing. We don't think they're making the right choices. Notice how in most cases our worry is that in the future we're going to feel a negative emotion. My client who was pregnant was fearing most the intense emotion of the grief and loss. We fear that our children will be disappointed if they don't make this team or that team. Or again, disappointed, an emotion, if they're not accepted to college that they want to go to. We worry we'll feel rejected, another emotion, if we don't get the job we want or get the promotion that we applied for. We worry that we'll be vulnerable and open to embarrassment if maybe our child gets pregnant. When we tell our brains we can handle any emotion, it's just a vibration in our body, we can handle it. We then talk back to that worry. Think of something that you're worrying about right now, today. My brain likes to worry about the health of loved ones close to me. I then question, well, how much of this do I have control over? So ask yourself, the things you're worrying about, what do you really have control over? Most likely you have control over very little. So remind your brain, talk to yourself. I don't have to think about this. I'm not in control of this. I don't have the information to solve this problem. And when I have the data, I'll handle it then exactly as I need to handle it. I can handle any emotion. I'm prepared to handle the negative and the positive of life. The negative builds me up and it builds those around me. Then look at your life today. What in your life are you avoiding feeling and doing? Look at your present. Worry likes to seem important for the future and can be a buffer to avoid the discomfort of dealing with our own problems and taking courageous and scary steps toward our own lives. Do we think it's more useful to be in someone else's business to avoid owning our imperfections today? I've totally seen myself do that. Worry sure does not feel good, but worry isn't vulnerability. Doing scary and uncomfortable things in the present can open us up to experiences that require confidence and resiliency. So choose your negative emotion and decide which will be more useful to both you reaching your goals and dreams and which will be a better example to your children. When we're full of worry, we show up like as negative and pessimistic people. The vibe of worry doesn't attract other positive people. Worry is full of insecurity. Watch how you act when your head is full of worry versus focusing on today and repeatedly telling yourself, everything's going to be okay. Everything will work out exactly as it should work out. Now, if you haven't listened to episode 2 of my podcast, and this episode is Stay in Your Lane, you have to listen to it if you haven't. It's one of my most frequently downloaded episodes. And a lot of times our worry comes from us swerving into another person's lane, thinking it's our responsibility to solve their problems or to even solve God's problems. I might worry the snow days will cut into our summer vacation. Or I see parents worrying excessively of the choices their children are making or may not make. Over-controlling and overbearing in any relationship is some lane swerving. And if nothing else, worry doesn't feel good. It's dirty pain. And worry isn't real. Worry is just thoughts and sentences in our head. When we see that, we can release the strings of those thought balloons and just let them rise up into the clouds and be gone. Let them disappear. As parents, we think our worry in our heads will keep our kids from making mistakes. Some emotions do fuel us to teach our kids ways to navigate the world, but worry isn't love and it isn't parenting. And unbridled worry is going to show up as us being controlling and will fuel our kids' anxiety with our own anxiety. So as our kids see us manage our worry, we can model to them how to manage their own worry, which is running rampant in this world. The way we talk about the world either builds up their confidence that they can handle things and be resilient, or we fuel their anxieties and insecurities. This shows up all the time for parents. I work on this daily myself, and I coach my clients on this. What are we teaching our kids if we question every single decision they make, or we express so much worry for them? We teach them inadvertently that they aren't capable of making good decisions, and we teach them that making mistakes isn't a good thing. Interesting, since I'm guessing most of us want to have confidence in our children, and we want them to be okay making mistakes, since that's how we learned. Stop stressing and start living. Stop worrying and start creating confidence and resiliency. Worry isn't love. Worry is dirty pain on top of either clean pain or it's blocking peace that's totally available to you today. I challenge you to replace some of your worry habits with peaceful habits. More peace is only one thought away. And if nothing else, do remember that in the depths of real problems, no one felt that worry was helpful to them in the moment of dealing with those difficulties. Worry is only pretending to be necessary. I hope this is helpful. If you find yourself consumed and burdened with worry, this is a perfect situation to work with a coach on who will help you see your brain, who will help you question each thought, many of which feel true and real to you, but they aren't. Please reach out to me and set up an intro call or a mini session through my website, HeidiBenjaminson.com, or via social media. Worry doesn't feel good. I can help you figure out what is blocking you from feeling more confidence, calm, and peace. This is what I do every day with clients. I'm great at it, and I can't wait to talk to you. Keep on sharing the podcast, and I'll see you next week.